We wrote a comic book, Ryan, and holy smokes, it has definitely delayed the podcast a little bit, but I am proud to say that issue 1 is like wrapped up. Issue 2 is also wrapped up as it pertains to the writing and being drawn right now as we speak. Issue 3 is written and in line after issue 2, and the book's gonna drop in July. We're talking about our project with living horror legend Ben Templesmith, CRASHDOWN.
Yeah, it's exciting. And if you look back at the last podcast we did, it was like in October or so, right? When we sort of got this project off the ground, we got the original art in from Ben Templesmith for that first cover. We unboxed it on camera, and then we completely stopped the podcast.
Yeah, basically, we didn't realize how much work it would be. We took on like a part-time job, if not and some. And it's been a wild ride, but we wanted to kind of like let you in on what we've experienced over this last year and how we got to this point, and to let you know that it's available in previews right now. We would love your support. Please hit up your LCS, go to previews, order some covers, and let's chat about like the road to get here, because this all started in Denver when we got invited by Whatnot to cover the launch of a brand new publishing company.
Right, we're talking about last summer. Whatnot reached out and asked if you and I would like to fly down to Denver Fan Expo and cover the launch of their new publishing line called Whatnot Publishing.
Brand new comics being released. All we knew was that there was going to be a few titles, and we knew like JPG from that Spider-Man booth was releasing a comic called Ninja Funk. We hadn't seen any of the pages yet. Exiled with Wesley Snipes attached. Quested and Alpha Betas, which all I knew was like a little bit of YouTube stuff. That's all we really could research. But we took the trip down to Denver and did the convention like we typically do. You know, we set up and had the hotel room planned out and did a podcast that was very unique because we have never really done interviews in that style. I'll put the link here for you to check it out, but we were the first ones to cover the launch of this publishing company. And it was a really special thing because that morning we received the ash cans. And that was our first look at these comic books. Do you remember how you felt? Like, I was a little nervous at the time because I knew I was going to be interviewing these creators. But what I didn't want to have to manage around was like, oh, what if I'm not a big fan of these comics? Like, I'm not sure what we're going to read. What are these going to be like? You know, I was thinking maybe like there may be a kid's book in there, or there may be something that just really isn't my vibe. But I was like pleasantly surprised. And as soon as I read it, I remember going to you going, what'd you think, dude? And what did you say?
Yeah, that's pretty much the same vibe I had. We were going in pretty much completely blind, and I had no idea what to expect. And thankfully, like Tom said, all of the 4 things we read in there, they were pretty good. And it was a relief. It was like, okay, I can comfortably sit down and talk to the people who created these things right in front of us across from a table and not have to like, I love this, you know, like pretend like I love something I hate it. You know, it was a relief in that sense. So we sat down, we talked to the creative teams for all 4 of these different books, minus Wesley Snipes. And I think there were a couple of people who couldn't make the actual convention, but we got to have pretty in-depth discussions in a very, very, very hot hotel room with no fans. I was a little uncomfortable in this hot hotel room, but it was a good experience.
For our members who've been following us for a long time, I'll give you a little like peek behind the curtain, you know, behind the scenes, if you would. I've been doing the trending list video for 5 years plus now. The Hot 10 hitting 3 years now. Every week, without skipping a beat. I've been sick on camera. I've done videos by myself. And when I do conventions, it's not like I can record this video early in time for the convention. I'm either doing it the night before I leave, if the convention is a Thursday night trip, or I have to do it at the hotel, you know, on Friday morning before I can even go to the convention. Sometimes there's like members of the community wanting to meet me on Fridays, and I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to hit the convention. I still have to do the trending video. So my grind typically looks like doing a lot of research Thursday night when I'm at a convention, like in the hotel room. All my friends are out having fun and I'm researching books. And then Friday morning, I'm filming it with whoever's there or by myself. And in this case, I had to do all of that, read the ash can, go to the convention, witness the launch of Whatnot Publishing, watching them sell their ash can and seeing just crazy prices. The excitement was unlike anything I'd ever seen for the launch of a comic book run, let alone multiple comic book runs. And then seeing these creators who are like the stars of the show, David Mack, you know, Kevin Eastman was part of this launch. And then we had the team just showing up in waves all throughout the day where we're doing these like 20, 30-minute conversations that we edited down and made a podcast of.
Yeah, it was a different experience. It's not like this where we're in our studio with our equipment. You know, we had to bring these smaller microphones. We had to bring a whole bunch of lights. It was all these big hot lights in this hotel room with no open windows, no
Dude,
fans
you were
going.
hot
In the
as
middle of
hell.
summer, I was like dripping sweat, uncomfortable.
He's not exaggerating.
I was
This
sitting on
guy
a
can
bench.
sweat.
Yeah, I'm a sweaty man. Oh yeah. But no, there was this bench that we were sitting on. There was no back, so I couldn't I was not comfortable physically, and in every sense of the word, I was not comfortable talking to all these new people I'd never met before about their books, and it was a big, exciting day. It was a lot. It was a big day, and reading all 4 of these samples, because again, we only had like 3 or 4 pages of each book, so you get a little taste. Some of them didn't even have dialogue. I think Ninja Funk, there was no letters. Yeah, it was just
They
all
said
art.
it was all art, and some of the panels have already been scrapped.
Yeah, there was that too. So we just kind of, it looks cool, you know, it was still very early. But overall, the main takeaway after reading it was like, this is a cool lineup, but it's missing a horror book.
There was no horror, to our chagrin. But what was fun is that after the podcast, after meeting everybody on the team, we realized that this wasn't as much of an interview we were doing to learn from them. In retrospect, this was like an interview that they did with us, and we were deciding in that moment this would be the publishing company that we would go with. You know, I had been shopping around a comic book idea. I already had been friends with Ben Templesmith for quite a long time. We've done a lot of covers. He lived up here in Washington for a number of years, hung out with him pretty regularly. And we had chatted about doing a comic for over a year up until that point. And shout out to Michael Calera and Kevin Rodatelli, the co-founders of Massive and Whatnot Publishing. They approached me and said, hey, we know that you're in the process of doing something with Ben Templesmith. We're huge fans. And you're right, there's no horror, there's no sci-fi at this point that they were releasing. And they wanted to know if we would consider bringing that to them and being part of this big team.
Yeah, and then at some point, they just reached out to you and asked if you'd want to take that comic book under the Whatnot Publishing umbrella instead of a different publisher.
Absolutely. And that was the point where I realized, oh, snap, this was something I thought I was going to do myself and it would be kind of like a side project. And I imagined it would take a couple of years to actually like manifest that, you know, make it happen. But I soon realized we got to get this rolling because I would love to release this in 2023 if it was possible. And that's when I reached out to you.
Yeah, that was a pretty fun conversation. You were just like, hey, so it turns out like you had mentioned to me you were thinking of doing a comic with Ben Templesmith. And I remember you shot me some ideas with like this insane asylum. There was some storyline you ran past me, and I was like, nah, dude, that's not very good. Think of some other book to do with Ben Templesmith. Good luck, you know, have fun. You know, I was just like a removed kind of sounding board you were looking for feedback from. And then after this conversation with Whatnot, you reached out and you were like, yo, I think I want to write a comic book with you and Ben Templesmith on the art. And I basically just went, yes, please. But not the asylum one. Like, let's find some other idea. And that's kind of how CRASHDOWN first started.
Now we have some Q&As for members of the community over on Instagram. Make sure to follow us both, Fire Guy Ryan and ComicTom101. We do random polls and questions that we'll bring to the mic so we can give you some shout outs. And we're going to get to what CRASHDOWN's about. But before we do that, let's show you the trailer.
Life beyond our home on Earth is now possible thanks to our galactic research scouting team and advancements in suspended animation and cryotechnology. With the sun's demise imminent, we are now 72 hours from departure for planet Empyrean. With a 95% chance for Earth-like conditions, your efforts will be vital for the successful continuation of our species. On behalf of the entire human race, we here at Apollo Industries thank you for your service. With the dramatic increase in solar radiation, 95% chance for Earth-like conditions. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
How does that feel, man? That's our comic. We like brought it to life with a lot of help. Shout out Michael Calera, who edited the book, and Ben Templesmith.
And shout out Shaylin, our editor, who kind of literally brought it to life in this case by doing voices and all of the effects and just built that whole trailer from the ground up with no direction from us either. That was all him. That was great. I love that thing. I could watch that all day, and I'm probably going to.